A lot of people feel like they're being quiet fired or they feel like they're being pushed out of their jobs. And this has been a trend that's been happening since 2020. So in this video, I want to talk about what are the signs that you're being pushed out of your job. The first sign that you're being pushed out of your job is that you have reduced responsibilities. Now, it's not uncommon if, let's say, a company is growing, that to have other people who focus on specific parts or specific roles within the company and kind of take some of your responsibilities away. If, however, you're noticing that there's not a lot of change in terms of new hires or people kind of shifting responsibilities or whatever, if there isn't a lot of change there and you just kind of notice that your role or your boss is taking more of your responsibility away and giving it to someone else, it's usually an indicator that they're pushing you out only because they want to kind of make sure that whatever you're working on could be done by someone else, or in some cases could be done by AI or some sort of machine. And I would equate it to, it's kind of like if you are a 5-star chef and all of a sudden they ask you to start peeling potatoes. And if you're noticing that, you can start taking steps to make sure that you're building out your responsibilities and that you're actually making more of a contribution to the team, if that's what you want to do. Number 2, you're being excluded from meetings, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Usually it's intentional. If you notice that you have team meetings that a lot of people are on, or if you have meetings that you should be on and you're not on, it's usually an indicator that you're getting pushed out strictly because they are saying we're going to try to invest our time and invest our energy into giving responsibilities, into giving tasks to the people who we would like to stay here longer or who we want to make more valuable to the company. If you are noticing that you were included in meetings and now you're kind of not being included in meetings, I don't think that it's a coincidence. I think it's that you're trying to be pushed out. If you notice that that is the case, and you think that you're still in a good position and you want to stay at your company, you could always just bring it up and say, hey, is there a reason that I got taken off these meetings? Can you put me back on? Or if you're just really uninterested in staying at your company, obviously look for a new job, but that's a really good indicator. It's usually pretty slow going. So it's not something where you're just uninvited from meetings all the time. It's something where you kind of over a couple months, you notice that there's fewer and fewer to-dos on your schedule, or there's fewer meetings on your schedule, and that you're probably being excluded from meetings. Number 3 is negative performance reviews. Every performance review has a balance of positive aspects and negative aspects, and sometimes the break is maybe 60% positive, 40% negative, or 30% positive and 70% negative. But if you're finding that your performance review is almost exclusively negative, or that they can't really find a lot of positive things to say about you, it's usually an indicator that they're trying to push you out, mostly because they just want to make you feel unwanted, or they want to make you feel like you shouldn't be at the company because you don't have the skill sets to. If you've noticed that you are in a negative review cycle and there's just something where you're like, this doesn't feel authentic to who I am, maybe they say that you're not good at something that you've always been really good at, or that you're not performing when you've been performing, I would just have a very candid conversation with your supervisor or whoever and just say, let's talk about what are the things that you're expecting of me, and we'll just reset the expectations and say, here are the things that I'm going to be doing. Here's the actual stuff that's preventing me from doing that, and then moving forward that way. If you want to stay at your company, that's probably the best way to address it. And obviously, if you don't want to stay at your company, look for another job and move on. Number 4 is lack of communication. This could be lack of communication from your team members. This could be lack of communication from your supervisor. This could be lack of communication from your executive team. But if you find that you're not getting the communications, or that you're getting the communication late, it's usually an indicator that they don't really value you and they don't really value your time, and it could be a bigger indicator that they're pushing you out. Number 5, they're setting unreachable goals. If you find that they are pushing on a lot of responsibility to you, opposite of the first sign that we talked about, but if you're finding that they are giving you tasks that are, or they're giving you goals that you're not able to accomplish, let's say something that might take you 1 week to do, they're saying that you need to do it in a day, or something that is maybe a 3-team project, they're saying that you need to do by yourself. If you're finding that there's a lot more of that coming up, unrealistic expectations, unrealistic goals, it's a sign that they're queuing up to maybe let you go, or they're trying to push you out on your own to make you feel really overwhelmed or feel unsupported and make you feel like you want to leave on your own. Number 6 is increased micromanagement. Micromanagement, and I will say this on my soapbox every single video that I talk about micromanagement, it is because they don't trust you. And not because you're not trustworthy, but if a micromanager is kind of escalating, or they are constantly saying, I need to know what you're doing, I need to see what you're doing all hours of the day, it's because they don't trust the work that you're doing. And usually typically micromanagement isn't to say that you're going to be fired, or is not to say that they're trying to push you out. But if you've seen that micromanagement is increasing along with these other steps, it's usually a good indicator that they're trying to push you out. Number 7 is a shift in work culture. You've seen that there was once promptness and excitability, and people were happy to be there. And there's a shift in work culture where people are starting to feel a little bit more uneasy. Maybe they're feeling a little bit attacked, or they're feeling a little bit not included in things. It's usually a sign that the work culture or the people that are leading the team are trying to push individuals out, because what happens is culture is impacted by the people at the top. That could be the supervisor, it could be the corporate people that are leading the organization, it could be the executives. If you're finding that your work culture, your specific team culture has changed, it's probably an indicator that someone in your team or you specifically are getting pushed out of the organization, and that the environment that they're creating is kind of like laying the groundwork for people to be unhappy so that you will no longer stay with the organization. Number 8 is that there is no room for growth. This one's pretty obvious. If you're running into a glass ceiling or you're running into a ceiling of any kind, it's usually an indicator that they're trying to push you out of the organization for maybe a couple different reasons. Maybe you don't fit the profile of people they're trying to promote. Maybe they just don't like your personality, or maybe they're looking for a different skill set. I hate to say maybe they're looking to just outsource your role, or maybe they're trying to augment your role. For whatever the case is, if you're finding that you're constantly pushing for more growth and you're not receiving that, it's a good sign that you are getting pushed out of the organization. Number 9 is reallocation of resources. If you found that you once had 100% of the resources you needed to complete your job and now you only have 70%, they are going to be continually decreasing the amount of resources that you have to complete your role, because they're trying to push you out, or because they're trying to change the way that you're structuring your organization or your workflow. And not that change is always a bad thing. I think that organizations should always be changing, they should always be growing. But if you find that your responsibilities are increasing and your resources are decreasing, it's usually an indicator that the organization is trying to push you out, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, but they're not giving you the resources that it needs or that it takes to complete your task. So it's usually a good indicator that you are going to be pushed out of the organization. And the last one I have is that it's just a gut feeling. I am a big proponent of, if you feel something in your gut and it just kind of sticks and you're like, I don't know why I keep thinking that, but maybe you have an interaction with your boss or with a team member or an executive and you're like, I don't know, it just feels like they don't want me here. Sometimes gut reactions are enough of an indicator to say, maybe I'm getting pushed out of my organization, or maybe it's time for me to move on, or maybe it's time for me to take other action. To make sure that you're not being treated unfairly in your organization. And if you're wondering if you're being pushed out or disrespected in your office, if you're being disrespected at work, check out this video I made talking about if you're being disrespected at work. And with that, I will see you on the next one.